Good afternoon. Welcome back to session 3. We have three great speakers before our 3:30 tea. More food, more drinks. Some excellent case studies, the applied use of survey data, and some food for thought as well. I'd like to welcome up Professor Dr. Ákos Münnich, who is a senior consultant and advanced analytics at DataExpert, one of our sponsors, and also professor at the University of Debrecen in Hungary. That's correctly pronounced, I hope. Debrecen, I will not bother trying again, but thank you. My Hungarian's a little rusty, apologies. Exactly. Welcome to you, Ákos, and your presentation on a new network-based approach to product testing. Take it away.
First of all, I would like to say that I learned a lot in the morning session. So I would like to thank for the presenters. Okay, and for the organizers as well. And I just hope I will add something to you and the organizer as well. Actually, I also learned that the real-time analysis is, and survey is getting much and much more important. And actually, this is one of our key concepts, key solution for the best-worst kind of questions. What I am talking about is actually published in the Springer Nature Business and Economics in January. So you can read if you want. If you just tired too much now, then you can go and then you can do what you want. And I also learned that, we would like to market research, which is dynamically presents the results. Here is a very careful explanation, worded as soon as possible, which means in real time. So this is, which means that including the dashboard. So your fieldwork is going on, and you see the results immediately. Many data can be done, of course, but especially the best-worst type, this MaxDiff, is not possible until today, of course, because now you will learn how can you do that. And it is adaptive, again, as much as possible, of course, it's never perfect. And here again, it is normal from the very beginning of when you have questionnaires that if you are old, then I will ask something different. If you are a youngster, then I ask. But if you, again, I concentrate on the MaxDiff type question, I will tell something about a bit. Then, of course, estimating someone's preference probabilities, real time, no, it's not easy. And based on that, continuing your interview with an adaptive way, it's until today still not solved. And the last one is accurate as much as possible again. Of course, all is related, so accuracy is coming because you can do it all kind of analysis, not only just registering the respondent, but analysis can be done real time, so accuracy can be improved. Yeah, we are working on that. And now here is just an example about this best-worst or MaxDiff questions. Then you have different options. Now here are drop weights. We did it actually because just for fun and just for testing the system that whether it works, and it works. And you have to choose the most or least one which you like, etc., etc. Actually, I am working for psychologists for 40 years, but I am a mathematician, so kind of crazy mix. And this MaxDiff type is really useful not only for marketing research, but even deeper analysis. So I can suggest if you want. Dynamically presents, yeah. Now here is a dashboard from our experience. And this is, you might see that here the sample, oh, sorry. The sample size and yeah, just some kind of information and at this moment is, yeah, 37 of the sample size and the preference by the dog breed is, yeah, bigger picture is more preferred, etc. But you see that there is a response ID. So even you can have the same output for each of the respondents. So not only for the group or total sample, but for each individual. Now it is not solved at this moment, until today, sorry. It was just for fun. And for accuracy, there are key concepts. Two key concepts is looking at the MaxDiff responses in a different way. We transformed to graph representations. If you have graphs, you can use the graph theory, which is a big part of mathematics, and all kinds of results there. And we used, I think, a nice strategy, this so-called PageRank preference probabilities. Now I will tell something about that. So these two key concepts could help solving the whole situation, the whole problem, real time, etc., etc. Now, in a standard way of MaxDiff, you have different options. For example, you have 5 options in one screen. And the subject has to, in this case, let's say, in a block, there are 6 screens. Each screen has 5 options, and the numbers, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10, denotes the, let's say, for example, brands, different brands. In the next screen, you have another 5 options, etc., etc. The plus sign and the minus sign denotes the plus, of course, which was selected as best, and the minus shows which selected as worst. And if the first row you transform to a graph, then that is the bottom left. So and you see that from 10 goes to directed edge to 1, etc., etc., because the 1 was selected as best, which means that all the others are not so preferred compared to the first one, etc. And if you collect all the information in the 6 screens, so in the block, you will get to the graph, which is in the bottom right. And of course, it is an undirected, so-called directed multigraph, if you want to know the correct name for that. And now PageRank is a centrality index, and again, I must say that it is not a statistical model. Actually, I'm a statistician for 40 years. And it is a behavioral-based model. And actually, this is the base of Google search. And at the bottom, you see that the algorithm is patented by Larry Page, the co-founder of Google. So I decided not to work too much on validating, because it seems at least they have enough money, so I trust them. And the PageRank, the page is not a page of a book, that is the name of Larry Page. And when he patented, the only requirement is that you have to use this term, PageRank. Otherwise, you can use it free. So I think it's a good idea. And just 2 figures, what PageRank means. If you look at the top, then more or less symmetric figures, yeah? And if you see the PageRanks, this is a preference distribution over the nodes, or brands, or dog breeds, etc., depending on what is your context. And you see that node 5, 6, and 7 have the same probability. 2, 3, and 4 also. And of course, the least preferred is 1. But if you have an extra information, and now we go to the real-time solution, because then you have in real time chance to have extra information. Then, of course, let's say this extra information is that node 7 is better than node 2. Then, of course, the probabilities are changing. So it's really sensitive to explaining what is the preferences, depending on even small variations. And here is the graph before I showed the PageRank preferences, and yeah, you can make nice pictures for that, illustrating which is the most preferred one or least preferred one. Actually, you can have a very nice database where the database is now graphs. So it's a bit different than usual. And usually we use the hierarchical Bayes estimations for estimating preference probabilities in max-diff environment. But the problem is that there are some anomalies, contradictions, and although they are more or less the same, but there are some problems. There are some discrepancies between the two solutions. What is also important that the hierarchical Bayes estimation needs the total sample. So you cannot do it real time by the algorithm as it is. And the other problem with hierarchical Bayes estimation that is very good for population estimation, for group level estimation, but I would not say bad. But there are several problems estimating the individual level, because it is not for that. You can do something, but it's not so good. And I will show, for example. Now here you can see this is about ice cream. Actually, I like ice cream, so I was very happy with this database. And you can see the yellow rows at the left side, that node ice cream 2 was selected as best 3 times. And but just check that the green rows, the node 11 was selected 2 times as best, and 1, yeah, it's in the middle. But the hierarchical Bayes estimation provided 0.7, or a bit larger probability to node 2, and 0.07, so 10 times less for 11. So it's a contradiction, I think. But if you check the PageRank column, then that's absolutely correct, at least according to our nature of mind, or I don't know how to call it. Yeah, the in degree and out degree is just the terms in the graph. In degree means how many arrows came to that node, which means how many times that node win in the situation, and the out degree how many times it lost. That is just a technical term. And adaptive, so if you use the hierarchical Bayes estimation, you cannot do anything else, just waiting for the total sample estimating. You have to wait for Yeah, if you have special guys, you can do it immediately or in a week, or you send the data to another company and you will wait for weeks, or I don't know how much. But if you use the solution we suggest, then you see that there's a column PageRank 1, PageRank 2, which means that it was asked real time. And it is again about the dogs, the dog breeds. And it's something like that if you have, let's say, dog breeds or different brands. In a standard way, you have after 2 or 3 weeks or even more, you get estimation of the population probabilities or even segmented group level probabilities. But yeah, you see that I would like to know much more about the top 5, for example. But you cannot go back to the subjects. They are at the airplane and they fly away. You cannot do that. But with this technique, you can do it immediately because you estimated the preference probabilities. You see, you calculate it immediately which is the top best, which can be, of course, completely different subject by subject, and then ask only about the 5 best. Even you can have some advertisements that you, or some offer to buy that it's up to you. How much would you like to get money? And here you can see that the PageRank 1 column and PageRank 2. And in the PageRank 1, the yellow, you see that more or less the same probabilities. But the PageRank 2 resulted in a much more clearer picture, which is the best for that respondents, because it's just for one respondent. And you can do it, of course, for each subject. And then when you finish the total, you have a very much, I would say, very much information about the preferences. You could do it in real time. Actually, you can do in real time all kinds of correlation analysis, etc., but it's not the topic today. And now again, if you, this is again a kind of summary. We are again in the dashboard, and in the middle, this bar chart shows that preference probabilities round 1 and round 2. Yeah, the lighter green and the darker green. So you see that if you ask an extra question about what is the best in the best 5, we always would like the football or any sports. We would like to do the best one, but always there is the best 16, etc. But we are going to the best. And then there are some changes. So, of course, preferences can change. We are not consistent. But with this technique, some consistencies are built into the process. So we can go on that. Actually, I can show you several international databases when people are asked, how many children do you have at the beginning? And after 15 minutes, they asked again, and the 2 numbers were not the same. And it's about 5% more almost every time. Of course, we could not check whether he got a phone that, it's a new baby, but I am pretty sure that is not the case. So we are not consistent. So our suggestion is using this kind of technique, and we have already done it. It works, and I think we like it at least. So it's up to you whether you would like to learn about more or less. Thank you for your attention. It's too much. Somebody should mediate.
Coming down, yeah.
What? Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. I have a question about hierarchical Bayes and PageRank method. If we take a set of random sample from for hierarchical base and run the analysis, and then run the analysis again, taking another set of random sample, is likely to come to similar probability score? Is it the same for page rank? If you have a total sample, and then if you take two set of random subset, and then run the page rank analysis, you will get the same answer?
So if you have hierarchical base estimations
Yeah.
and page rank, you want to compare it.
Yeah.
No, I did it.
Yeah.
I exactly did it. So I compared, we calculated the page rank for each subject, and we calculated the hierarchical base for each subject. So my example is exactly that.
Okay. Now, but say for if you have a bigger data set,
Yeah?
say for example, we have set 5,000 completes of sample. Want to take a random sample from this 5,000
Yeah.
and run a hierarchical base separately, and do the same. Have you done the same way? Do the same for the page rank. Take a say 500 sample out of 5,000 and run the analysis separately. Are they comparable?
The page rank?
For
Is-
page rank?
yeah,
Or do
for
you get
page
a
rank-
close answer.
Yeah. Page rank is estimated for each individual. You can take any kind of random sample that will be always the same. The problem is with the hierarchical base, because that is a statistical model. If you take a random sample, of course, because a random sample, you have hopefully, and the hierarchical HB estimation is easier. HB estimation is a very good process, actually. So you may have got the same, but of course, because it is based on another sample, there is some discrepancies. But it's up to how to calculate the random sample. But the page rank values are exactly the same, because a page rank doesn't depend on the sample. If you personally, goes to the dog breeds, you can get back your own preference probabilities without any other sample. So you don't need sample because it's for individual.
Okay. So that means if I have outliers in my data in the page rank, I can exclude them very easily straight away because it's individual level, it's not affecting each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, yes. This is not a statistical model, which is not easy to how to say, accept, sorry. That's not easy to accept because everybody's thinking on, but it's a behavioral model, psychological behavioral model. It's not the same. How we think about different, actually you can think by yourself. If you goes to the menu, oh, I prefer that one, oh, I'd start again, etc. So you do not have utilities in your mind. If you have, you are lucky. But on the other hand, I think we are just moving in our brain. Actually, neuronal science can prove everything. No, I did not do that, but I read about it.
Yeah, I've got two questions. The first question is like, you've not talked about adaptive, and that's really interesting. You want to make the questions in MaxDiff less boring, so always ask the question where they're going to have a hard choice, and that's something that maybe it'd be like another presentation. But that's like, are you doing that already?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Not
like
me,
to know
the
how.
data expert. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
the second question is like, I saw that you were measuring time, duration, and the fact that the decision is made quickly is also an indication that the choice was easy. And have you ever thought about using that in your model?
My suggestion was to check always the time because, yes, you are right. How much time we spent on a question that can be very informative. Actually, most of the time is a log normal distribution. And then you can estimate before finalizing a questionnaire, if you have information for the time, that how much time will need for the full questionnaire. And that's, you are right, if someone is too fast or too slow in responding, then again you have some extra information to check whether he is an outlier or he or she is an outlier or not. So you can, I can suggest to use this time spent for even for the MaxDiff and for other, not only for the MaxDiff actually. But easy or not, yeah. If you have to decide between two objects, between two brands, which is very similar, of course, you probably you will spend more time on that. So still, for validating, I would say it can be very useful for validating your data. But of course, I can some other suggestion how to validate real time and online, or how to call it, the data.
A quick question about real-world applications of this analytics, which is slightly above my head, if I'm honest. Is it product testing, creative testing? What's the kind of typical research application for this kind of methodology?
The MaxDiff?
Is it just simply improve MaxDiff, or is it?
The MaxDiff is for everything, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Even I use it for personality trait measure. That's also very handy, and yeah, I try to introduce for the psychologists because they don't use it. And it's funny that the marketing research has this technique which psychology doesn't use it. So I try to introduce for them because you know that when you have a question in personality traits, whether you are in that, I am that, but doesn't mean, but in MaxDiff you have to select between two even positive descriptions. So actually I did it, and it's much better than the usual attitude questions. I hate attitude questions, but it's just for me. If you like, sorry.
Any more questions at all before?
How much do you dislike attitude questions? Do you dislike them a lot? A little?
You see that now we can see attitude questions that say, if you ask a question, how much agree with increasing the minimal salary or wage? Yeah, I don't know which is the correct one. Let's say the question is, how much would you satisfy with 20% increase in a 5-point scale? And if someone says 2, what does it mean? Because 2 can be because of 2 reasons. If it's too much, then I am not satisfied with it. Or if it's not enough, again not satisfied. Completely different viewpoint, but the score exactly the same. So if you make a segmentation, these two completely different viewpoint will go to the same segment. Horrible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ákos. That's great. We are now switching to a completely different case study. We've got 2 gentlemen here from Legends, who are a sports and entertainment consultancy. I need to get my paperwork, excuse me. So I can remember where Kamrul and Dean are from. So, Kamrul, you're research director, previously at Ipsos. Oh, I'm getting it wrong. I can't use LinkedIn. I'm going to give up doing LinkedIn today. And Dean's from somewhere as well before. Thanks very much, Dean. Both very lovely. Now, I have to say, I'm not a football and sports fan, even though we're at the Oval today. So I read the presentation, and even I was interested. So I think you guys will be too.
Hello, everyone. So, yeah, we're from Legends. Just thought it would be a good idea just to introduce you, because the first thing that ever happens whenever we sit in front of a client is, who are you? So, big company based in the States, have been in existence for nearly 15 years, now starting to take steps into the international market outside, purchased the company International Stadia Group, who have been in existence for 15, 20 years, Cam? Something like that, yep. And what we're now doing is we're building a truly international business, which started off with 10 people from representing the Cowboys and the Yankees, sitting in a room and working out how to take their merch and concession sales, make a business. Now all of a sudden we're offering a 360 approach, and the part of the business that Cam and I are predominantly operating in is the global planning part. So what we want to do is tell you a little bit about what we use market research for and how it's not dead. We need it, because without that we can't satisfy the demands of our clients. Cam?
Before we dive into our today's topics today, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Kamrul Zaman, Research Director of Legend International. I have over 19 years experience in the field of market research, data science, and I have joined ISG in nearly 2006 and worked in that field nearly last 15-20 years to develop the methodology. My expertise broadly on survey design, sampling, price modeling, revenue forecasting, conjoint analysis, segmentation, and other multivariate statistical techniques. Legend purchased ISG in 2016, and we become a global brand called Legend International. And our opportunity increased to US, from UK to Europe and Far East. Dean joined in 2017, is my right-hand man, and made a huge impact on research, survey design, and automation. To you, Dean.
So where are we and what are we doing? So basically, if we're going to fund a stadium project, or if funding's going to be found for a stadium project, we can't just use anecdotal evidence. We can't also just say, oh, our 30 years of experience that we've got through the myriad of companies that created Legends are enough. We also can't just say the club's information that they've got saying that we sell this many season tickets, we're going to continue selling this many season tickets, is going to apply. We have to back this up with evidence. There has to be something that's sound, and it has to be a proven technique that will stand every test. We will go through months of being queried on our methodology. So what we've had to do is take standard methodologies and then apply advanced statistical methodologies as well to that, to be able to create a platform that is able to provide that assurance that that stadium project is not just for now, it's also something that's going to last a lifetime, because there's billions at stake here. So we have to make sure we're doing the right thing. So typically there's 8 parts to our process. The first 4 is what we would call a discovery phase. So, you know, I'm sort of almost preaching to the choir here, basically. You know this stuff. So the first 4 parts of it is what gives us that understanding to be able to create the conjoint model that is our USP. And then what we would then do is typically go into a fieldwork period where, again, we use Sawtooth Lighthouse, which is a very much conjoint specific product that is able to give us the information that we need. But obviously we need to preface the work that we do with understanding what the clients are, what the client's needs are, what their clients' needs are, how do they work, what do they do, who are these people. So we have to take each person on the individual journey through their survey. So, for example, about attendance history, we're not going to ask someone who is a match-by-match goer, how long have you held a season ticket for? So we need to understand and segment that way. We need to make sure that everyone is being given the right survey. So again, we typically would have 2 types of survey. We have a B2B survey, which normally would go out to hospitality clients. We have a B2C survey that would go out to general admission-based clients. But then once we've gone through that focused area of conjoint and true interest, which true interest is what allows us to build up a weighting profile because we need to extrapolate these results to represent a universe. We also have not anecdotal, we have more sort of qualitative sort of based background of match-by-match information, like what do people want to do outside? Is there demand for youth team games? Is there demand for the evolving ladies football market, for example? So That's always good information. It's food for thought for the client, but it's not necessarily what we're going into the field to find out. But it's always good to be able to go into these meetings and have the head of food and beverage there, or the head of commercial there, just to, like, if they're asking these questions, we have that information for them. So it allows further exploration from Legends as part of our 360 offering. Typically, these are the products we would test when we're going into market. So there's normally 6 products, but it's not just 6. There'll be subcategories of each product. So a general admission buyer would normally see just general admission and premium general admission. So premium general admission is a creation of a lounge or a bar type environment that gives general admission buyers that opportunity to upgrade and start to make tentative steps into the hospitality market. Again, this is something that is creeping more and more into sport now. It's something that often when we test these products now in the general admission market, they love it. So it's a good stepping stone to be able to take these people on that journey to say, okay, you're now using that bar, you've got that really great environment. Do you want to move into having, say, table service? Do you want, and we're giving that, we're creating that. Hospitality buyers would see typically the same set of products. We wouldn't call premium general admission at this point. It would be known as something like VIP Light or something, just given a bit of differentiation, but essentially what they're seeing is the same thing. But we've got to be very, very careful because we don't want people devaluing the product. So, and loge boxes, for example, is a product that Legends brought into the European market, and Tottenham Hotspur were the first team to take that up in Europe, and it's proven very, very popular. And that's been something that's been concept tested, and the proof's been in the pudding. I'll now hand over to Kamrul to talk about conjoint.
Dean just mentioned variety of products. So they're different for the stadium. Some of them are premium, some of them are general admission. How do we test this product? And here comes the conjoint. As most of you all know now, this is one of the very popular product nowadays we are using in market research community. Late 1960, Professor Paul Green, a marketing science professor, first implemented conjoint into the market research. And nowadays, this is the cutting edge method to measure people's preference. We adapt this conjoint technique, and then we use this conjoint technique to collect the data from market, people's preference. We run the analysis using hierarchical Bayesian, collect the preference of utility score, and we use this score to understand people's preference across all these products that Dean mentioned. And then we use this score to build our own conjoint simulator. So these are the normal steps we use for conjoint. If you think about implementing conjoint in a sports research sector, it's not a very straightforward. In any consumer market, you all know that supply is infinite, there's lots of variety of product, very easy to implement a conjoint technique. But if you think about the sports research field, we have a limited space, 18.3 meter. Everybody want to sit in halfway line, so we can't. And everybody want to have the best price with best seat with the cheapest price, which is not possible. And limited supply, limited option make it difficult. Also, as Dean said, there are 10, 12 different sort of varieties of products. Some of them are boxes, which has a different structure, different benefit, different pricing strategy. Some of them are like premium seats, general admission seats, they have different access. Some of them have lounge access. Stadium construction have restriction. All those things makes it so non-uniform and difficult for conjoint. We had a long journey from 2006 up until now. We made our design methodology as perfect as possible and learning every day. This is the learning curve for us, but nowadays we have our cutting edge techniques we are implementing into market research, and it's working. Everybody loves chicken, and everybody know how to cook chicken. It tastes obviously delicious, but if you try to make a chicken like KFC, that's challenging. KFC has their own secret ingredient. Same goes with us. Conjoint is a common product implemented in every market, but we have our secret sauce. We blend conjoint with our secret sauce and make the product best. Our competitor will be able to replicate, but will take years to replicate. We have altogether in our methodology team over 50 years of experience on methodology and marketing science. So together we made as best possible as product. To you, Dean, explain the questionnaire.
So just in front of us here is a typical survey screen that we would have on one of our conjoint exercises. So I'm sure some of you at some point have taken part in one of these sort of style exercises. It doesn't look too different. But what we try to do is make things a little bit more personable. So what we first do is make sure, because these are people who think they know the stadium, but it may be changing, or they may be moving their seats. So what we tend to do is we would offer a location, but we can also speak to architects and we can change the view. So we can have a click on the image and we can say, here's your seat, here's what the view is like from the seat. Likewise, for a lounge, it's not just a case of what is the location, it's the experience as well. So being able to look at the location and also what the lounge is going to look like is an important part of that journey. And what we're trying to do is make it conversational. This is not a robotic exercise. We want it to feel like you are sitting in front of that salesperson in that room at that time of picking your seat for that lovely new stadium that you're going to be moving into. We want to try and make that exciting. It's the less about bullet points, the more making conversation out of it is the better. It's very difficult to do from a survey screen, but we try. Secondly, prior to the exercise, what we will do is we'll typically ask what sort of ticket prices you're interested in, so, and make that adaptive. So we're not going to be asking a student who's 19 years old, are you willing to pay something that's twice the price of what you're currently paying because we're testing one price. Robotically, yes, you are testing a price and you want to assess that demand, but we need to take that as part of our post-survey period analysis and then start making reductions based on that. So we will know roughly in the universe how many buyers are of a certain age category, and we'll respond to that. So it's not just a case of saying you're going to sell 30,000 adult tickets. We know that's not the case. So we have to be very, very aware of that situation. So that's how we try to make the respondent feel valued, because I've said this so many times, sports fans are so volatile that we have to make sure we're not antagonising them, because the slightest little thing can just explode, and we've seen Twitter blow-ups off the back of these surveys. So how do we create our perfect blend? So there's generally six areas where we make sure that we're doing the right thing for each survey. So the first thing we do is we have to have an in-depth understanding of how the client works. So we have to assess sales data, which can take weeks. We have to understand the CRM database. We have to forge relationships with a heap of people, client side, to be able to talk their language, because without that trust level is not going to build. Once we have that understanding, we can then build that blend of club and market research data. So when, the big buzzwords of big data, yes, applying here. Without having that club data, without having that research data, we can't create a universe. We don't know how many people want to buy that ticket. So we have to create that universe using, and the issue is every CRM system is different. We wish it was always the same, but there's always going to be an understanding we have to go through. And the other thing as well is the external factors. So, like I said, the volatility in the market, there's always going to be, it's only got to take a bad result and we're going to have to delay field work going out. I mean, for example, Barcelona lose the El Clasico and we want to go out into field. We can't do it because we're just going to get bad data back, because everyone just remembers the last weekend's results when they're filling out these surveys. And unfortunately, we'll have a question such as, what food and beverage options would you like in the stadium? And they'll reply saying, we need to sign a new centre forward, stop asking us these questions. That's the problem. We also have the other issue that people attach to their seat. There's a legacy, but you're almost going into I've sat here with this member of my family for 30 years, you're going to move me, I'm unhappy. So these things all have to be taken into account. And the good thing is that every project we do, we learn from it. We understand more. We get to segment better. It's an ever evolving process, and that's one of the good things about what we do. Okay.
I'll touch the number 0.4 market simulator. We've got best-in-class market simulator. So it all starts from building an universe first. We conduct a survey, and we combine the survey data together with the club database to build a sales buyers universe. From survey data, we get a strike rate. What's the potential number of buyers are interested in a particular product? And then we use that strike rate to scale up to the universe and get the total potential number of volume of buyer likely to be in that particular universe. We feed that into our market simulator, where we measure the market share of preference, and then together we get a volumetric forecast. That's the one side of the market simulator. Secondly, we analyze price elasticity of each individual product and get the optimum prices. We have our own methodology. We see what's the inelastic and elastic price zone, what's the optimum price I can push that for a particular product, and then we use that as a recommended price point. And thirdly, we have a stage sale process. It's same as a stadium kiosk. When you try to buy a ticket, you always try to buy a best sitting location with a good price. Once that location is gone, you go to the next one, and then it's gone next one. This is the way the sales process works. The same thing we replicate in our simulator. What we'll do, we'll try to feed a sales universe into the simulator, and we'll switch off the product that will be sold out completely at first go, and run the simulator again and again, and keep going until all the location of the stadium is completely sold out. So that's how we build a scenario. So once the model is ready, we create some scenarios, optimum or conservative scenarios, and we talk to our stakeholders or our client, support client. We ask them what's the capacity, and then we recommend those scenarios, tell them, so this is your forecast. And then they will take this, and then they'll start building the scenario. It could be renovation, it could be a new stadium. If there is any architectural change or there is any restriction in the seating location or everything, they will come back to us and tell us, so this is the modification, could you rerun the scenario again? And then we'll do it again, and this is a back and forth process. It keeps going on, going on, and then unless clients are completely happy, and then this is the process and the project concludes. So this is the overall research process. Final conclusion. Software-wise, we are using the market leader Sawtooth. Probably lots of you already know the MaxDiff, Conjoint, you use the Sawtooth. They're the market leader. Last 40 years they're in the market. Their tool is very, very sophisticated for statistical analysis. For survey design, it's good. It's maybe not as like some of the Typeform or some of the sophisticated software, but they have HTML, JavaScript, Perl script to be able to build anything you want. Dean is our expert in building any kind of design modification we need to do that. So together it's a good platform for us to do the conjoint CBC exercise. We are sticking on that. Database delivery, we are building model in Excel. At the moment, all the models are in Excel, and if the database get bigger, we use the SQL server. But we are developing our web-based simulator. It will be based on Python platform, and client will be able to interact it directly, will be able to build their own scenario, and backend database will control by ourselves. So that's the plan we're doing, but we are almost halfway there, progressing. And we obviously have a challenge because the Legend is not a market research agency. We don't have a separate data processing team or separate survey design team. All our researchers, we are actually wearing different hats all of the time. So, but it is going in a good shape, and we are getting busier, but we are trying to make our processes streamlined and as automated as possible. And we are also increasing our warehousing capability. We are using SQL, but we are slowly moving to Azure platform. The benefit of Azure is you can actually accommodate all data source, your model, everything can sit into one platform and can connect with each other. You don't have to worry about, and then data movement, and then accuracy of calculation will be much more precise. That's all about the presentation. With this, I conclude my presentation. Please feel free to ask any question. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just testing.
Thanks. That's really fascinating, actually. I'd never thought about that part of predictive pricing for stadium utilization and so on. But there's so many other factors that would need to go into a model. So you mentioned Spurs. It's like, well, it's different if it's like North London Derby versus Norwich on a wet, Tuesday evening. Are you doing a generic model that's then applied across the whole season, or is it like match by match, or how does that work?
When it comes to match by match, model gets very, very complicated. You understand why. When it comes to seasonal, or the corporate say we want to sell the boxes to corporate universe, straightforward, build a survey, send it to them, ask them whether you are a current buyer or a past buyer. If it is past buyer, they already know, they're familiar with the product. If they are new buyer, we need to introduce some show card, give it to them, explain them. When it comes to match by match, we have to make the bundle of option. Say in a season, in a Premier League season, all the Premier League game, but if it is a Championship or League 1, League 2, you need to group all the similar strength match together in one bundle. Bundle 1, bundle 2, bundle 3, bundle 4, and then you ask them what's the likelihood, if these are the bundle, if it is a match by match option, then which product would you go for or would you choose? We have a methodology, but still, even doing content after that, there is a quantity option. How many tickets somebody will want to buy, and if it is a bundle. So there is obviously a little bit of gap in it, but match by match is much more complicated analysis. We also have lots of other indirect way of measuring the match by match volume. We have some regression, steady sphere model, and few other models based on historical data. We use that to benchmark or compare with our conjoint output.
The other thing as well is that the funding for a typical stadium is going to rest on like the secured money. So season tickets are going to be the key driver. Where there will be times where the lenders may be a little bit unsure whether this is going to be a sustainable long-term thing. So there may be some teams that we deal with who flirt with relegation, and as such, is there going to be a drop-off? If there's a drop-off, is there a match-by-match market that's going to support it? So asking those questions about, even if we're saying that the intention is for the club to be competing in the Premier League, but in the event of being in the Championship, would you be willing to go to a standard game or a end-of-season promotion sort of big game? But again, that is also seen as an opportunity, because then we're opening up to, are you interested in hospitality for those games? So it depends on the client, basically. The thing is just ring fencing that sort of long-term finance.
So this is it's a bit of a straightforward question. Being as it sounds like you've built your business around conjoints, what would you say is the optimum number of features to band together in a batch?
In terms of conjoint,
conjoints,
are you thinking about conjoint attribute, total number of attribute?
Correct.
Normally, it's recommended you shouldn't cross more than 7. That's based on the journal paper published in Sawtooth Conference in lots of other places. You can go, it depends on if you have a bigger, it depends on actually sample. If you have, say for example, whatever we do in US market, the market is so big, we don't have to worry about it. And the other thing is also, it depends on the design. If it is a straightaway choice-based conjoint design, 7 is the maximum. You can, if you do a partial profile design, you can add more attribute and put 7 attribute randomized at the same time. There's lots of other ways, but a straightforward answer is that 7 is ideally better to stick onto the 7 attribute. And for attribute level, you shouldn't cross more than 8. Also, it needs to be tested. What's the number of sample size you needed to get a robust design?
Thank you.
Do we have time for any more? Yep, one more. Battle of the max diff.
Over to you, Cam.
No, not snug diff, it's conjoint. But I see that you love Sawtooth and the solution, but I would like to mention, just a comment, that the conjoint was developed in 1964 by mathematical psychologists, and by definition, and the development of conjoint is not a statistical model. It's again valid for an individual. Later, for practical reason, they introduced some statistical assumptions, some common dimensions, etc., which is, if you use it for groups or subpopulation, that's okay. But again, I would like to emphasize, it's not valid for individuals.
Yeah, I think there's lots of ways you can measure the utility in using the conjoint data. Use the multinomial logistic regression, one of the technique, and then hierarchical Bayesian, another way. Depends on the hierarchical Bayesian will give you the individual level utility score.
Yeah, that is the problematic.
Yeah, and then, but this can be cross-checked by running the multinomial, because I normally, when I get a conjoint analysis, I take at least a week to do all sort of checking and everything, make sure all the interaction, and check the hierarchical Bayesian with multinomial logistic, get the output and see the aberrated utility, so they are consistent or not. If not, there might be a problem in the data, get the outlier out, and then run the analysis again. So I know what you said is right. I mean, this is the good thing is Sawtooth took feedback over time in lots of analysts across the world, and they equipped their software with lots of feature. They have basically, our company has a kind of a premium gold bundle with all the package that we needed for do multinomial logistic analysis, counting analysis, all the statistical testing to make sure we can run event segmentation, and then based on the segment, we can run the conjoint analysis to make sure it gives the consistent answer. So obviously, it's a good tool, but it needs to be driven by an expert rather than just randomly in the blindfoldedly. If you run the utility and then build a model, it might backfire.
Wonderful discussion, and where else in our sector but the ASC? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think Kamrul and Ákos will be in the bar later, continuing that conversation. We have the last of our session 3 presentations now, a slightly different topic from the analytics we've been looking at, and now thinking about respondents. And I'm delighted to have Shifra Cook, who is CEO and founder of Ayda, to share views on why we need a participant revolution. And this is automatically going forward, so I do apologise. And we need a participant-first approach. So please welcome Shifra.
Thank you very much, JT. I'm going to take you somewhere completely different after those 2 presentations. They're very technical. I'm going to take you to the place that we've at Ayda have called the participant revolution. And what do we mean by that? We mean that essentially we're seeing something of a backlash, if you like, in terms of the completion rates, in terms of some of the quality, in participants in studies. Now, that's not all. I think Adam would probably kill me. And obviously, from SINT, what we've seen is there's a lot of quality controls that they put in place. So I'm not saying this is everything, but what I am saying is that it's more widespread than it should be. I hope I'm doing this. Am I going the right way? There we are. So first of all, we're going to delve into why the research industry across the board, across both qual and quant, needs a participant-first approach. Who is the voice of the participant in our industry? Well, I'm going to make a start on that. We're going to look at how we got here, the participant perspective, how we might go about delivering a positive experience from many really different aspects, and then a roadmap for success. So as you know, I'm CEO and founder of Ayda. You've probably not heard of us. We're a tech startup. We relaunched in March. And specifically what we do is we enable our customers to recruit their own participants into their Ayda panel. And they also can import their participants from their CRM databases. We've heard all sorts of stories about how incredibly difficult and protective the solutions and marketing teams are in terms of accessing the CRM. And the stories then that we're hearing from researchers is that the speed and the agility that they want in research just isn't there because they're not actually getting access to people fast enough. So we enable them to build out their own database or sort of PRM, as we call it, participant relationship management, of potential participants, and then provide the services to operationalize and streamline that whole workflow through from screening, through to consent, through to participant management, and then fulfillment and payment. So no research really actually takes place on the platform. It's purely operational. So my background, if you want to find out more about us, please look us up and please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's about the only social media that I do. And the story really of how we got here is my background is in advertising and in media. And I was building in-house insight teams, and I was conducting quite significant studies for big brands, as you all do here. And I was seeing things that occasionally results that were coming back from surveys that were, you know, significant in size and expensive in value, that just didn't make sense always and didn't always sit comfortably with me. And I was then obviously using that to then, you know, garner insight and advise, you know, world's leading brands. And I thought, this isn't right. This isn't right, that even a portion of this doesn't make sense. And, you know, then of course doing workshops where you'd have people that, you know all about brand equity and, you know, arrived separately but left holding hands, which, you know, I hope isn't kind of how most sort of workshops and focus groups run. But it seemed kind of strange. And so, you know, the quality really of the people coming in, I thought, you know, how are we addressing that? How are we looking at the participant experience? And so that's what really sort of spurred me on to go and create Ayda and sort of do something about that. So, of course, like I said, this isn't everyone. I want to sort of caveat that, right? We're not talking about a sort of, you know, the whole participant universe is completely defunct. But what we are saying is that in allowing an element of doubt, it can cause, you know, ripples of concern, I think, then, in terms of the veracity of some of the work that we do, and you know, that's obviously not a place that we want to be in. So this is a perfect storm that we're in actually right now, and it's been created by three key forces. There's been an increased demand for data and insight. The world is, you know, in this VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, lots of complexity, lots of ambiguity. Brands are trying to sort of understand their consumers better, and, you know, things are changing fast. I mean, the past 2 years have been like no other that our generation has seen. So, of course, there's this increased demand for conducting more research, for more insight, and in contrast to that, there's not been an increase to the same pace in the number of people that are actually willing to take part or do take part in these studies and in research. So we've got this demand gap. And in this demand gap, there's a significant sort of tension, and that's where we start to see some of the cracks sort of arise that were probably there all along, really, within sample. But now it's really coming to the fore. When anything really is put under stress or under tension, that's really when you see where the cracks and the problems are. And I think this is something that needs addressing and needs attention within our industry. So, as I said, whilst the increased demand has gone up, the supply hasn't necessarily kept pace. We've seen these cracks. And coupled with that, or the third point really, is around participants' concerns around data privacy and their information security. And that has heightened as well. And what we're seeing, you know, obviously we have GDPR, which came into force 2 years ago, California Consumer Privacy Act. We're seeing in America now, not just California, but, you know, Arizona and I think it's Virginia, if I'm right, who are also putting into place. There's a demand from citizens there for more legislation around the privacy and the privacy of their personal information and data security. So, you know, what we've seen, therefore, is people's sort of reluctance to take part in research because they don't understand maybe how their information is being handled or what's being done with it, or not trusting organisations to handle it well. From a recent KPMG study, I think it was 86% of the US population are concerned around their privacy of their data, and 40% said that they don't trust business to act ethically and to be ethical with how they hold their data, which is pretty damning and pretty awful. So if there is that perception amongst the general public, and we are expecting the general public to take part in the research that we're doing, we need to look at ways to repair that. So, I mean, how do we get here? So those are the three things that are happening right now. When surveys and research generally went online, the approach, back in the day, I think Mike talked about this, was that you kind of took your paper survey and just sort of digitized it. And obviously things have moved on considerably since then, right? I mean, we can see the innovations coming out in the way that surveys are designed and research generally online. But there are two sort of key aspects really that I think have never really been built in to research to the as it transposed to online, which was the actual experience designed for the participants. Where's the participant's voice in the room? What is this like for them? It's not just the data that we're trying to get out, but obviously we need to think about how they are moving through and how they are experiencing taking part in research. Coupled with that is mitigating fraud from the off, really. As a direct result of sort of not tackling these two areas, what we're seeing from the Case for Quality, they found that roughly 4 in 10 people don't complete surveys, so lower completion rates. And in some instances from Green Book, we've seen up to 20 to 30% of sample or data being thrown out. So it's clear this is increasingly becoming an issue. And like I said, this will call into question the validity of results and ultimately research itself. So it's something that we have to look at. A few more stats is that 40% of participants say that they take part in research at least once a week. And on average, 18% of survey responses were duplicates or frauds, and 3% were doing more than 20 surveys a day. So it's not nice, right? It's not nice to see this. No one likes to see this, right, in our industry. But unless we actually look at it and address it and look at ways that we can solve it, this isn't going to get any better. So what do we do about this? The best place to start is by talking to the people that take part in research. Why do they do it? What's important to them? Understanding from the participants' perspective how we deliver as well what they might need, not just how we get out from them what we need from them. It's about that equitable exchange. Yeah? So what are their motivations for taking part in research? With only 1 in 4, again, satisfied of their experience, there's clearly work to be done here. And if we can start to sort of increase that, we can start to decrease, if you like, the demand gap. We can open up and increase the number of people taking part, increase completion rates, right? And we want to close that demand gap. So what do? Well, we did some work at Ayda with 2,000 people that had been through the platform, that had completed either qual or quant research, and asked them, what's important to you? What's important to you when you take part in research? Tell us. And the top 5 things, it's not going to be like groundbreaking, you're going to know these, yeah? That really what they want is they want to be rewarded quickly. They want an ease of communication with the researcher, and that really kind of more pulls out in the qual side. They want a choice of reward. They want an interesting topic, and the brand and company is motivating to an extent. So participants expect to be compensated fairly and quickly for their input and time, and they want a choice of compensation, as I said. And therefore, we're meeting these priorities if we only ever reward them with vouchers. I know it sounds like a really small thing, and it sounds like a really small thing to us, but it's not a small thing to the people that are taking part. Yeah? So, we know about things like breakages where, vouchers that aren't claimed are then sort of taken back by the company, or the fact that a voucher, you can buy $10,000 worth of them, and in actual fact, it doesn't cost you $10,000. But are we really doing right by participants if we're not offering them the choice of how to be rewarded and we're doing what's essentially best for our business or the business. So what does a positive participant experience look like? We see 3 areas really to focus on in terms of delivering and creating a better experience for participant across operations, across mitigating fraud, and across, I'd say methodology, but it's really sort of design, if you like. And I think you probably, you know a lot about that all already. In operations, what we would say is transparency with participants around their data collection and usage. People want to understand how you're using the information, where you're using the information, and have a certain level of control over it. So what we have in Ayda is that participants can log into their profile, they can view the studies that they've previously taken part in, they can amend their own profile. There is a sense of control around that in terms of their own personal information. They're also looking for very much clear and honest communication. The focus here is if we say something's going to take 5 minutes, it should take 5 minutes. It shouldn't take 20 minutes. And it's just a really simple thing of being accurate with timekeeping. But in actually what we've seen is this transparency and honesty has led to increased completion rates and increased interest in research. And so ultimately, that's what we want. That's what we're aiming for. And then prompt and fair payment. So again, with Ayda, what we do is we allow participants to decide how they want to get paid and how they wish to be remunerated. And what we see is 95% of them essentially claim their incentive direct to their bank. 1% of them take vouchers. And given the option to donate to charity, even less than 1% actually donate to charity, which is a sad indictment on humankind, because you would hope that people would donate to charity, but hey, given the option in this instance, people want the money in their bank account. So again, we understand that participants might want something different to actually what they're being offered, right? They might not want a Debenhams voucher. The Debenhams sort of shut down, didn't it, 2 years ago? Right. No, but exactly. But those kind of things happen, right? Where they're offered vouchers for shops that they, just never even go to. And so let's actually remunerate them properly and give them what they want and give them the choice of how to actually receive their reward, because it's important to them. In terms of mitigating fraud, recapture obviously is a starting point. We use this as a base level at Ayda to prevent bots from completing our customers' online screeners and recruitment campaigns. Very much a sort of health measure there. But as we said, the participant history, we have the ability to look up participants' past history, essentially, in all of the work that they may have done for you, any other surveys, so you can see how many repeats you have got from within your business. And also, interesting, as is quite different for us, is that we're able to match people at the point of payment. With 95% of people claiming direct to bank, we can tell it's pretty hard to open multiple bank accounts. It's pretty easy to have lots of different emails. So if you're claiming money direct to your bank account, we can actually, again, have a proof point and veracity of that person actually being the same person that they say that they are. In terms of methodology, obviously it's about, the keeping surveys short, the script and logic being pleasant, a good user experience, the interface being easy, the interface being accessible, just sort of following through on that thoughtfulness, I'd say, from a participant perspective. So to sum up, from me, the benefit and continuation of our industry, I'd say we need to start taking much more heed of the people that are actually taking part in the work that we do, and look at a participant-first approach to reverse some of the rather sort of damning statistics that are blighting our industry at the minute. So that means focusing our attention on input. So what goes into research as much as what we want to actually get out of it, or what our clients actually want to get out of it. And specifically that means improving the experience for participants through experience design. So how are we designing the experience for them? The transparency of data collection, the prompt and fair payment, the good and ease of communication, the control that they might feel that they might want to have in terms of accessing their information and knowing what is out there on them. And thereby look at improving completion rates, and more broadly, in turn, these actions have a knock-on effect of improving the perception of research within society, making it easier to recruit more people and leading us back to superpowered insight. Short and sweet.
Some question down the front.
I don't know if you're here this morning, but I'm here to represent the past, and I am the old fart in the audience. And you made me think of lots of things, because I actually started in research, finished in research, but was away from it for many years. And in the old days, and don't get me wrong, I'm not harking to go back to the old days, and although some bits of me would like to, including my back, you had already on the doorstep, you had a relationship.
Yeah.
And that was very struck by some of the stuff Mike was showing. When he was showing a conversation, even a fake conversation, yielded richer results. But you also had a gratitude, because you had somebody in front of you who you were helping to do their job. And we very rarely paid an incentive. There were no incentives except for qualitative research when you got, 30 bob. And I don't know what I'm asking really, except is there any way to re-inject some of that? Because you'd already done half the job before you'd asked the question.
I see exactly what you're saying, and I think it's a bit difficult to row back from the expectations that exist now when there is payment involved. But I think that the solution is not just about prompt and fair payment, although that's obviously what people are to some extent looking for. It's also very much, like I said, in the design, the experience, the sort of the humanness of it, the feeling that there's a researcher behind it, the feeling that you have some sort of element of control over your data, like you could slam the door shut if you wanted to, right? And I think it's injecting that humanness into it. And from my perspective, I think it's just sort of putting myself in their shoes and having very much a sort of, what would that be like for me? Would I be bothered? How would I feel about that? What's the conversation? What's the language like? How does this make me feel? Does it make me feel like I just want to do 20 surveys and I'll take your money, thanks very much? Or do I feel like I'm getting something back? And in that exchange, maybe there's something more to uncover in terms of, your input in this helped this community do that. A sort of sense of there is a purpose and a bigger purpose to it, as opposed to just getting to the end and getting your pound or fiver or whatever it might be. Yeah. So I think that there's probably more to be done in that, and the work that we're doing with customers at the minute is very much around. They're like, well, a lot of them that they put into the database are their own customers, so that whole sense is heightened, right? Because they're very protective over that, so they have to have a superb experience, right? Because if you're a Dyson customer, you don't, and you're conducting research, you don't want to be pissing them off, right? So that whole thing is heightened there, and then it's through that sort of workflow, that experience, that seamlessness, that understanding of where I am in the process, the humanness, and injecting that really. That we're sort of really keen to do. We're just on the start. We're 8 people in a room like those guys in Buffalo, where we're just at the start as Ayda. We're at the beginning as a startup, but that's important for us.
I have a quick follow-up.
Yeah, please do.
Because I love what you're saying, and I totally agree in the spirit of it. But the danger is you will improve the experience for existing participants, even your surveys. How do we grow the pool? How do you get more people willing to participate?
I'm with you on that. I think it's going to take time, and the way that I see it is that if we start at the sort of centre and make it better and improve it inherently for existing, that it will ripple out. Now, I don't know exactly the trajectory of that, but by making it a better experience, a more human experience, a more fulfilling, rewarding experience, then I think that can, in time, you would hope, only widen the net. I think there's something in there. I haven't quite unpicked it yet in terms of how we actually fish for people, if you like, and how we present ourselves as a research as an industry. And I think I haven't kind of got to the answer yet. I'm working on it, but yeah, I think there's something in that. I think by starting, I think it will naturally that it will ripple out to an extent.
Sorry, Shifra, that was really interesting, and I had a question.
Oh, hello.
Paul kind of poached it with his follow-up, but actually just a quick one to begin with. Your earlier slide that had the stats on,
Yeah.
and the first stat that said 75% had taken part in market research, that was 75% of what?
75% of people that had taken part in market research had done so in the past 6 months.
Oh, I see, in the past 6 months.
Yes.
Yeah, because and your point around kind of supply not keeping up with demand really resonates. But again, as Paul was saying, all this stuff looking at all eminently sensible things around how do they want to be rewarded and what they want, that's about kind of retaining the people that we already have.
Yeah.
And again, as Paul pointed out, and specifically, again, going back to earlier this morning and thinking about inclusion and how do we reach groups that don't currently engage with market research at all, and I think maybe some of that is that they want to be incentivized in completely different ways, in ways that current participants don't. If you look at different ethnic minorities or things like that, and my question was going to be, how do we kind of get the people that we don't know yet, but you've already discussed.
Well, I think yeah.
But I had the mic, so I thought I may as well say it.
But I think that there's a sort of infiltration kind of strategy or plan to be done there as well. Bringing what we've seen from some of our customers, the work that they have done is that they have found almost like a I don't know, ringleader, or for want of a better term, in a community that will bring the rest of that community with them into the research process. Now, it's quite small scale, but there might be, again, some kind of kernels of an idea in there to look at how we do the same on sort of a larger scale. Like I said, I haven't got the answer just yet. Working on it.
I wanted to ask a little bit about incentives, because
Sure.
you talked a bit about fairness. Have you done any research into what fair is and what we can start to expect respondents to be expecting? I know some, I think it's California, that's starting to consider, you need to have a minimum wage. To the extent that we can say, okay, we are paying a right and fair amount, now we can start pushing for a higher quality of response on the basis that we've kind of passed that threshold of you're being paid enough.
Yeah, I think so. There's the raw data. I can't answer you exactly on that. The raw data exists in the platform in terms of what people have been paid and the studies that they've done. What we've not done yet is really crunch the numbers to know that for X amount of time and X amount of participation equaled, this kind of cost per hour. But yeah, so like you can tell, we're really early stage, right? We're an early stage tech startup, but it's in there. Give us some time. We'll come back to you on that.
It's popular talk. We've got one more question, JT. Is that okay? Yep.
Great presentation, Shifra.
Oh, thanks, Jet.
Just in terms of talking about the respondent, I think a lot of it seems to be the experience that they get. And when you're talking about how you can get more people to take part, it's almost like bring a friend. If you have a good experience and you enjoy the research and you get rewarded for it, you're going to tell other people. The communities then grow. You're going to be able to do that. So,
yeah, so that's a really good point. Yeah, we see some of that again as we do exit surveys. As people come out the other side of the platform, we see all this lovely stuff about I had a great time and that was so interesting and thank you very much. So it's a shame if that ends there. So yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you.
Any more questions at all before? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Excellent. Just a thought rather than a question, really, that the ASC and other market research governing bodies surely have a role to play in creating guidelines and standards in the topics we've been talking about. So perhaps in the feedback here or in conversations over a drink, we can take over the world, but it starts here with us. Okay, we are at the end of session 3. Refreshments now. Please be back promptly at 4 o'clock, where we will hear from Dr. Zoltkis of Zeka Analytics, and if the stars align, Kristen Luck from California. Thank you very much, everyone.